My name's Dave DeBow, founder of MoneyPartnerFormula.com, and this show is built for everyday real estate investors who are actively doing deals and looking to scale using other people's money. So if you're an active real estate investor and you want to get featured on this show to talk about your own real estate and capital raising experiences, then just go to daveinterviewyou.com. Now let's get rolling with this episode, and remember to subscribe for daily interview content.
All right, guys, welcome to Property Profits Podcast. I'm your co-host, Bryce Kaminsky, filling in for Dave Dubois. And there's been a lot of action around the short-term rental business over the last couple of years. And there's a bunch of different ways to get into it. And the people that I've got on the call here, I'm not going to drop the names just yet, but they're calling it the BRRSTR, in that it is BRRRing to a short-term rental. And I think that, you know, the business is only getting hotter and hotter and more interesting as it goes, as that whole reality becomes more and more interesting. So without any more further ado, I got Daniel and Donalta. How you guys doing tonight?
Great.
Hey, Bryce, we're doing well. Thanks for having us. So
there's a lot of different ways to get started in real estate. Sometimes people inherit things. Sometimes, people are they move out of their house and then they end up with a new rental unit. How did you guys get started?
Want to tell the story?
Go ahead.
So we have always been mutually interested in real estate. We grew up in households where our families always owned where we lived. So we've always just kind of it always made sense to buy and own property. From our first dates, we spent the time driving around doing open houses or dropping in on work sites. So it was something that we both bonded on very early in our relationship. And so fast forward a few years, we were doing a renovation. And then when we moved back into our primary home, we were juggling the idea of filling the property with tenants. And we never really had the greatest experience with tenants. So the Airbnb was a thing because we stayed in an Airbnb and it wasn't necessarily the greatest experience. So that host was a 5-star host. And so we were basically like, if that person can do this, we can definitely do this. So that's kind of how we got into the STR space.
Yeah. So like I was saying, we bonded over it on our first date. So we were driving around looking at properties, and just being the landlord kind of always made sense. People are always going to need a place to live. So very early on, we were kind of like, my dream was always to own a triplex, right? 3 units. I can live in 1 unit for free and then rent out the rest. So that was something that we were always working towards. But yeah, we kind of got started when we had our primary residence, and we finally learned to refi. Before, we were kind of house hacking. So moving from house to house, doing renovations, but we didn't even know about, refiing and pulling the money out. So when we were able to kind of do our first refi, that's when things really took off for us. And it was about, being in a real estate space that we learned about that and connecting with other real estate investors. And we were able to scale our portfolio to 5 properties within a year. And we were, doing still house hacking and renovations and BRRRing our properties. And when we pulled our money out, it was we were in downtown Toronto. We realized that during that refi, market value rents were not able to support the cost of the mortgage. Additionally, as Daniel said, we had a bad experience with tenants. So we knew that we had to sell our property in 6 months to a year. And we're looking for an alternate way to kind of make that cash flow to cover the mortgages. In addition to that, we knew that if the market turned around, or as soon as it did, we would want to sell. And that's where we kind of got into Airbnb, and we've never looked back. Every property since then, that has been the tactic that we used, a combination of short and midterm rentals to kind of increase that cash flow. And we were able to use that to retire me from my job. And now this is what I do full time. And we have expanded internationally to the US, Mexico, and the Caribbean.
So that's with the managing of those short-term rentals, because I noticed you had a business where you manage it for other people other than yourselves, and that is that or have you started buying in the United States as well?
Yeah, so currently in the United States, we are doing Airbnb arbitrage. We are also picking up property as well. So that we're really excited about the arbitrage opportunity because it's a way to get into property with little to no money. But the great thing about the US is, unlike Canada, there are places that have really good affordability. And we're able to, especially in this economy with interest rates going up there, really get into some like creative financing opportunities. Plus, as a Canadian, it's relatively easy to get financing. They just seem to be much more, pro investment in capital.
Or creative or open to creativity with investing strategies, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So we're
there's a lot
able
less red tape, right?
exactly.
Tell people at home, for those who don't really like understand our Airbnb arbitrage, give us the Coles Note version for people listening back at home that are maybe like Airbnb arbitrage.
Okay, so basically what we're doing with an Airbnb arbitrage is we'll approach a landlord and say, Mr. Landlord, Mrs. Landlord, we like your property and we would like to lease it. However, we're going to be using it, putting it on like an Airbnb platform. So right away, you are letting the landlord or the property owner know exactly what you're doing with the property. And so that's basically what an arbitrage Airbnb would look like.
Yeah, so you don't actually have to buy it. You're able to
Oh.
control it with a lease as long as the owner is amenable to the idea, right?
Right. We wouldn't recommend to anybody to not have that conversation. You're going to be putting in a bit of money in terms of like furnishings and whatnot. You might as well have the conversation so everybody involved is aware of what's going on. And so you're not going to risk your investment by getting kicked out because you're doing something you're not supposed to.
So is that right now the majority of your guys' business? That's your focus right now?
That's currently what I do. I manage the short-term rental aspect full-time, and then Daniel is focusing on deal acquisition and the construction renovation part.
Okay, so beyond the Airbnb arbitrage, because arbitrage doesn't really need construction. I think you mentioned that you're looking at expanding your flipping business. Was that it, or?
Yes. Yeah, so
tell
we
me
want to
about that.
expand business into the States, so buying property and doing flips to the STR strategy in the States.
Have you decided where? It's a big country.
Well, off the top of our head, we like places like Ohio. We've done business in Atlanta before. My personal favorite, because I have family there, is Alabama. But there's a lot of markets, and so kind of you just kind of pick something, make sure the numbers work, and go from there.
Yeah. I mean, the thing with the States is that you can pretty much go, there's lots of opportunity. Being as close to Ontario, there's this thing about the human brain, like the more decisions and the more options, the harder it is to make a decision. How do you value the market? Like what drives your decision making when you're like, I'm going to do a flip in this market because?
Well, what we're currently looking at is, again, because we kind of manage a lot of the projects ourselves, we do have remote teams, but we do look at the distance from home and how easy it is to get to. So that's why one of the reasons we really like Ohio.
It's just over the lake, right?
Absolutely. Right. And it's that whole Rust Belt area is really affordable at this time. You can still get in for, relatively a reasonable price. And it shows, like market research shows, I think in the past year or so, properties have appreciated there up to like 10%. So it's still really affordable. We're not dealing with some of the insurance issues that we are seeing in like Florida or oversaturation of particular and short-term rentals. So it's a really good market for us. We're definitely able to see it appreciate. It's relatively low cost of entry to get in, which is great for our investors. So it allows them to quickly get in, kind of borrow their money and then make cash flow right away. So that's why we really like that market. And people also sometimes, just like to see where the money went and what it's doing. And especially with the short-term and midterm rental strategy, they can go and stay a night at their property and really get to experience. And it's a really great way to kind of whet your appetite because of that low cost of entry to get into bigger deals.
Yeah, the pricing is definitely not Ontario pricing. As soon as you cross the border, I remember I was working in Cleveland 2019, and a neighbor, we were fixing a house, and the neighbor's like, "Hey, do you want to buy this thing?" And I'm like, "How much?" He's like, $5,000. I'm like, "Too much." So it's
You should have bought it.
well, if you saw what it looked like and where it was I think it was definitely less than East 100. Like I'd like to be west. Like I like to be east of 100. I think this was East 71st or something, and you don't want to be in that block. So he's like $5,000. I'm like, pass. It was all burnt out too, and that's one thing. I'm sure you guys are gonna learn when you go down into the abundance, is that in Canada we're like beating ourselves to death to like find the most broken thing, but in the States you're just like the least amount you can do, the better. There's so much
Absolutely.
opportunity. You don't have to chase these like big deals. Like get in, get out, get it rented, on to the next one. So, are you guys going to be like moving down there? Are you guys moving your whole operation, or do you plan to just be a little bit nomadic?
I think nomadic would probably be where we're going to end up. Toronto, Canada will always be home, but we like the opportunity to be able to travel and see what else is there. And with the STR strategy that we use, oftentimes you can find places that you enjoy as well. And if the numbers make sense, you can get a lease, and not only can you make money off of it, but you can also spend time there as well. And the way things are with high-speed internet, you could be having this call anywhere in the world, right? So that's kind of why I think being nomadic was probably somewhere around where we're going to end up.
So that's not a terribly capital intensive kind of business, but certainly the flipping is going to require some capital. Are you feeling any sort of like hesitation from Canadians to invest with you over the border? Do they not understand, or is your money primarily coming from the States? Where's the financing to back these flips and these BRRRS?
Yeah, we do work with a number of GNP partners. We also have access to hard money loans. So that's another thing. US is great for the different types of financing products. So we're able to get the money for not only the purchase, but also for the renovations as well. And with, maybe about like $50,000 in capital, depending on the type of property, you can also get in and potentially do some renovation. You raised a point earlier about there are a lot of properties with a lot of work to be done, and that is absolutely true. So we, again, really look for those deals where we can also work with a combination of creative financing, properties that have been in the market for a long time, and really try to work with those sellers to get better financing options in addition to hard money in order to get our investors the best.
Yeah, there's a lot of options for financing. Creative financing in the States is a lot different than in Canada, and you can, it's kind of like more open. Like you're free to make your own mistakes. If you want to sign that document, go ahead.
Basically, yeah.
It's America, baby.
Yeah.
Sign here. So, where do you see this whole thing going over, say, the next 3 to 5 years? Like, where do you see your business going? Where do you see that sort of, I wouldn't call it a niche because it is an emerging short-term rental, to the point where everyone's calling it STR because they're tired of saying short-term rental. Where do you see that going over the next, say, towards 2026, towards 2030?
I think it's definitely for us a lifestyle play. That's really why we're interested, how we got started. It worked for our lifestyle. And we want to continue that. We love to travel. And as I mentioned, we are investing internationally, as well as in Mexico and the Caribbean. And those are really great places for, again, creative financing. And a lot of the sellers are willing to work with you. So, I mean, if we could be chilling on a beach, we definitely love to be there too. And as Daniel mentioned, we're pretty nomadic. So we like to move around and get our hands involved in different things. And being nomads ourselves and having that experience post COVID, kind of post the pandemic, we're actually seeing it as an emerging trend with travelers. And these are the types of travelers that we generally try to focus on rather than the vacationers. That's our kind of way of, sort of recession proofing our business, or, dealing with any changing regulations that come up with short-term rentals, is to really understand the different avatar types and make our offerings tailored to them as this new and emerging niche.
Yeah, because you're gonna end up with like me more like, I want a week, I want 2 weeks, I want to stay there for a month.
Yes.
That's something that I'm seeing a lot with, because I'm on AirDNA or whatever, and I'm looking at what is this viable, what's the thing. And a lot of times it seems, and maybe you guys can comment on that. Some people don't even allow a 3-day rental. They're just like, no, they're like only weeks, only months. And they want a different avatar, because you can set up your Airbnb incorrectly and turn it into a party house. And all you'll get is party bookings. So how do you guys navigate, the offering on these different short-term rental websites to kind of mitigate your risk? Because with any tenant comes risk.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one of the things we do is we are very diligent about screening our guests, understanding where, why they're coming for, and what reasons. And we always implement security at our properties. So that's like noise monitors, cameras. We also can potentially deploy a team, like if we get an alert or anything, we will deploy a team to kind of shut that down. If I see you at 9 o'clock rolling up with balloons, guess what? Your reservation is canceled.
Yeah, and you bake in a lot of those rules right into when the guest is initially booking, right? So you're having an agreement that we don't want parties or any gatherings or noise, but let's say after a certain time, you agree to the rules. We expect that you're going to follow them, right? If someone's like, oh, I'm going to have a small gathering with like 6 people, fine. You know what I mean? Like, so it's not to say we don't want people to show up and enjoy themselves, but we want to also be good neighbors wherever we go, and any properties that we're maintaining and looking after, we want to try to associate ourselves with the community, and also to try and make sure that not only are we being profitable, but we want to make sure that we're neighborly as well. So it's very important for us to, like Donalta said, to screen the guests and make sure that they're going to be a good fit.
Yeah, setting good expectations on the front. I like where you were saying that's another big emerging thing is the noise monitor, because that's going to catch the party as the decibel levels, like, oh, maybe they drop something and it goes off, but it's like got a measure for like a 15 minutes above this decimal, and it goes and sends
sustained noise.
Yeah, sustained noise, right? So you can monitor your property more closely without being like the basement suite and being like with the broom, hey, keep it down. So if people want to get a hold of you guys and maybe learn more or invest with you guys, or just get into that space and pick your brain, how can they reach you guys? How can they contact you?
Instagram or Facebook at Donalta Hall. Donalta Hall on either Instagram and Facebook, and you'll be able to get in touch with both of us.
Awesome. And I think there was a website. You want to plug the website real quick, because I checked it out before, and it's what is it? What was it here?
Bunkerpropertyservices.com.
That's the one that you do management for other people as well as yourself.
Or you can check us out on bunkerbnb.com.
Even better. Well, what they say, time flies when you're having fun, and I really enjoyed the conversation, guys. And I, best of luck in the United States. I'm sure you've already been down there, but it is the Wild West. So I wish you all the best and enjoy the weather, because it's not like it is up here. Until next time, guys, we'll catch you on the next episode.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hey there, I really hope you enjoyed that episode. And as always, if you want to listen to more daily interview content, make sure you subscribe. And if you're an active real estate investor and you're doing deals and you'd like to get featured on this show, then just head over to daveinterviewsyou.com. Now at moneypartnerformula.com, we help real estate investors to create a process for predictably getting capital so they can do more deals without relying on hard money lenders or the banks. We do this by building them a private capital marketing system. Now, if you want help turning yourself into a big money capital attraction machine, then book a call with our team to see how we can help. Just visit moneypartnerformula.com to find out more. All right, take care, and we'll see you on the next interview.